Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, people who are young gentlemen, people who have digits in their name, people who know how to start banners, and people who go refer to themselves as Sports Talk Terry. Welcome on in to today's episode of Trust the Process Live. No banners here today. He had a fancy SOS. He had banners. He's got clients to take care of. So I'm just the guy who fills in when he's not here. We got a special guest today. The one, the only ET Sports Talk Terry is back on the show, making a comeback, little Brett Favre style. We'll get into a guy who reminds me of Brett Favre in a little bit. ET, how are we doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing great, man. Happy to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Happy to have you here. Happy to have you back. A little nervous about what you're going to say about some of these Sixers questions, but hey, we'll see. We'll see. Young gentlemen,
you should already know.
Yeah, he's ready to let fly.
Oh, boy. Here we go. Young gentleman, Jimmy J, how we feeling? I'm liking the Kutch quote today.
Thank you. He said it. When you hit a home run first pitch of the game, you be feeling yourself a little bit. But no, I'm feeling good. Good to have OG ET back on the show. But wait, ET, before we get started, real quick, thoughts on the Dolphins draft? Thoughts on how y'all made out?
I love our draft. The only thing I would have changed is I would have wanted Jamar Chase. But you know what? Tua played with Waddle. You trust Waddle. I'll take it. It's going to make us more explosive on offense. And to be honest, I love the direction of this team. I love the direction of this draft. I love the direction of our coaching staff. I like it.
Y'all already made. He said fins up. Y'all ready to make noise. Y'all definitely ready to make noise.
Buffalo's falling off the map. Josh Allen will be exposed this year.
Here he go.
Okay.
Here he go.
Going on the tangent right from the jump. Yeah. Mr. Digits, did we add any? Did we subtract any over the weekend? How are we doing?
I'm chilling, man. I'm feeling good. It's officially birthday week for me. Saturday.
Oh,
hey, mom was last
we added a digit.
I know. I remember. I remember we had close birthdays. Yeah. So I'm chilling. The weather's starting to turn. Spring's always been my favorite time of the year, birthday aside. So I'm in good spirits.
There we go.
Love to hear it, Mr. Digits. We'll have to have a nice little Miami Marlins, Philadelphia Phillies celebration for you here. But moving on into our first question of the day, we're getting into the main event. Now, fellas, I'm not sure if you guys have heard, but 76ers is just a win or two away from locking up the 1 seed going to this year's playoffs. But regardless of how they played, regardless of the 1 seed, the odds have the 76ers at 5th to win the championship this year. They're tied with the Bucks at plus 750. On the graphic here in this order, left to right, you got the Nets, Lakers, Jazz, and then I said the Bucks and Sixers are tied. So, Mr. James Jackson, I'm coming to you with this one first. Is it egregious? Is it disrespectful that the Sixers are all the way down there at 5 in the odds for the championship?
You can tell who writes the questions in the script. So it's like, look how angry Josh said. Is it egregious? No, it's not. It's not egregious. I would argue they're right where they should be. Look at all these other teams that are ahead of them in the championship odds. You have a team in the Nets who when healthy, when they all come together, may have the most stacked roster, the most firepower the NBA has ever seen. Then you have the defending champions and the team that has LeBron James on it. Then you have the Jazz, the team who had the best record for majority of the year, the best record in the NBA, majority of the year, and has been playing really well. And then you have the Bucks, who have the 2-time MVP. The questions you may have with all the other teams down here, the Sixers also have that. It's not like the Sixers are working with superstars that have made deep runs in the postseason. Like you have Joel Embiid, who has had an MVP candidate season, has had a great season. You guys are the number 1 seed, but there's no playoff pedigree to the Sixers. There's no deep run pedigree to the Sixers right now. And the most one probably is Doc Rivers, and he's coming off a blown 3-1 lead last year in the playoffs. So you have a bunch of teams here who may have more under their belt in terms of stuff that they've proven in the playoffs than you do the Sixers. They are still 5 out of 30 teams, expected to win the championship or expected to contend for it. That's still top tier. Don't get greedy. It's not egregious. I think they're right where they should be.
All right. I hear you. Digits, I want to come to you because I'm a little nervous about what ET's got to say. I think it might be more in line with JJ. But Digits, what are we thinking about this one?
I do think it's a little. I don't know if I'm going to go egregious because we are kind of splitting hairs here. But I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't really think The Jazz definitely not, right? Like I think we can all agree that the Jazz probably not. And I might be a little hot take here, but what have the Bucks really done? Like, have the Bucks shown enough of getting? The Bucks have made one conference finals in the past 3 years. Do they deserve the benefit of the doubt over the Sixers?
Have you made
this
year?
Give it to me. Let him have it. I got that one.
I'm just saying in terms of betting odds, this is a year-to-year thing. This is not supposed to take into past year's performance into account. I understand the Bucks have a pretty good roster, but the Sixers have been ahead of them all year. I'm just saying that I think that you can take contention with that. The Lakers and Nets, no issues here. I'm putting my money on those two before I'm putting my money on the Sixers. But I think that you can easily make the case that the Sixers should have the third highest odds.
So first things first,
the
Bucks have went further in the playoffs with the core of their roster than the Sixers have. The Sixers can't get out of the second round with the core of players on their roster. And their head coach, you almost want them to be behind in series because he can't win when they're ahead. He can't win series when they're up 3-1. You want them to be 2-2 or 1-3 for them to have a shot. You want them to have to come back to win because for some reason when he's got the lead, it ain't safe. That said, everybody knows that the Lakers and the Nets, when healthy, are the two top-tier teams you're going to have to go through. The only one I would argue is that the Jazz, because the Jazz are just like the Sixers. They're a team that plays decent in the regular season, gets in the postseason, and fizzles. That's true. For some reason, they've turned it up this year. I don't know if it's Bogdanovich, maybe Conley getting more acclimated to the offense, even though he's been hurt. I don't know if Donovan Mitchell's just taking a step up. Gobert's kind of getting out of his own way. I don't know what it is, but they're playing on another level. Can they be beaten in the playoffs? Absolutely. I don't think they get past Phoenix, to be honest with you. I think Phoenix is more of a championship caliber team because everywhere Chris Paul goes, he makes that team better. Everywhere Chris Paul goes, he gets them deep in the postseason. Everywhere Chris Paul goes, he elevates the players of all the guys around him. That said, I would take Utah Jazz and put the Phoenix Suns ahead of the Sixers only because of the fact that Chris Paul is quietly having a better MVP season than probably just about anybody other than Nikola Jokic. And that's
JJ, I don't want this to come across as a dig at you because I know this is your squad, but you can't bring up the fact that the Sixers choke in the playoffs and then say Chris Paul is the reason that the Suns should have better championship odds than the Sixers. Because what is Chris Paul famous for? Never making it past the second round except one time with the Rockets. And granted, they probably should have had that Golden State series, but Chris Paul has been a career underperformer in the playoffs.
How many of those series did Chris Paul play fully healthy through the entire playoffs?
None of them.
Doesn't matter. I don't know how much you're not going to give me Embiid Peter Simmons fully healthy for a series. I'm not giving you Chris Paul.
To Max's point, I don't know if that does matter, but he hasn't played any of them healthy. But here's
all I know is a healthy Chris Paul gets past Golden State with the Clippers. With the Clippers, he gets past
the Rockets. But
you're criticizing my coach for choking those series leads with the Clippers. What about the point guard and the star player for those teams?
When you're up 3-1, the players did their job. When the coach doesn't know how to make it.
No. You got to close out. You got to close out that series. No way the players done their job.
Paul George and
Kawhi both disappeared in Game 7 last year.
Huh?
Paul George and Kawhi both disappeared in Game 7 last year. Players got to win a fourth game in the series until their job's done. Job's not done.
Kawhi Leonard is a championship MVP, two-time, who's won chips everywhere he's been.
And he disappeared in Game 7 against the Nuggets last year. Fact. That's a fact. He disappeared against Nuggets in Game 7, just like Paul George. Your players need to win 4 games in a series. If your coach gets you up 3-1, I would say it's even more on the players because you have such a huge advantage.
Well, while we're on the subject of the Clippers, why don't y'all be grateful that you have better odds to win the NBA championship right now than the Clippers? Because as we're talking about them, the Clippers might be the hottest team in basketball. And as I'm looking at our graphic, you currently have better odds to win the championship than the Clippers right now?
I think a lot of that is because of the fact that there's insignificant point guard play. You got to have a point guard in the playoffs. You can't win without one. Every team has.
You talking about Rondo now? Rondo's about to do for them exactly what he did for the Lakers last year.
Yeah, but Rondo's coming off the bench. But Rondo's coming off the bench, splitting time with Pat Beverly. Like, what are we talking about here?
But you know the foolishness stops in the playoffs. You know the foolishness stops in the playoffs. You know.
I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is What I'm saying is Rajon Rondo hasn't shown you enough this year to show you that he's capable of running a playoff run and putting a guy like Reggie Jackson, who's actually looking pretty decent this year, on the bench in favor of him, because Ronald's not going to give you any scoring.
The bubble wasn't too long ago. The bubble doesn't carry any cachet anymore. But he came in and ran the Lakers offense.
Bubble was like a year ago, and guys were playing in a monster.
Yes, thank you. Bubbles, Mickey Mouse playoffs.
I mean, listen, Jamal Murray looked like he should have been a Hall of Famer coming off the bubble last year. That man didn't even make an All-Star game this year.
Now, gentlemen, like I gotta take. I'm just gonna throw it out real quick, and then we'll transition to the next question. I think the Lakers are cooked this year, folks. I really do.
I'm through.
I don't care. I don't care if LeBron comes back. Anthony Davis ain't full strength. LeBron James ain't going to be full strength no matter what they say. I think the Lakers are cooked.
It's just real. But Josh, before
every Sixer on the roster, before 70% is better than every Sixer on the roster. Everyone.
But before you try to say a crazy take and slide on out to the next question, because you're not slick. You have to stand up. You have to stand up to the take. But before you do that, it's real convenient for someone who can't wait to doubt the Lakers to pick now to say I think they're cooked. It's real convenient to say that. But
they were cooked until now.
I don't care what seed they're in. When LeBron comes back and they get fully healthy, there's not a team that goes toe to toe with that. Like until they see the Brooklyn Nets, there's not a team that I am confident enough to beat the Lakers. I don't care what a game is. I don't care if it's home, away. Like, this is LeBron James.
LeBron doesn't care about play-ins. He doesn't care about any of that.
LeBron James in the playoffs.
They're gonna mop the first round, and then they're gonna sit there and get ready to really start playing basketball in round 2.
I don't know. LeBron sounds pretty worried about this playing. I don't know.
Did you listen to AD last night? Lloyd? He's like, he'll be fine. We'll be fine.
By the way, they beat those 1-seeded Suns.
We don't got to talk about that.
I mean, put a bomb on them yesterday.
We can go ahead.
I've also watched full strength AD getting knocked around by Embiid every single time the two of those have met. So I'll just
doesn't matter when Ben Simmons is giving you 6-3 and 2 in a game. What for matter?
Well, hey, we'll see
when your number two superstar gives you single digits in every category. What difference does it matter what your star does? Because LeBron's going to pick him up.
No. I'm not going to defend Ben Simmons right now for scoring 5-3-2. And also, I'm not having this conversation because if these two teams are meeting, it's in the finals. And ET, you'll come back on for the finals edition episode, and we can rehash.
I'll come back in Game 6 when the Sixers are down 3-2, looking at a closeout, and LA sending them home.
Yes, book it. I'll see you then.
Book it, Dano.
This brings us to a question that I've been thinking for the last couple of weeks, and it's been amplified by this LeBron James injury, this Anthony Davis injury, the Brooklyn Nets having, Harden going down, not starting this. It's just been a mess. I think the playoffs are wide open, and I think the Sixers may be getting disrespected a little bit with the 5th in the odds. But JJ, I think you bring up a really good point. They're ahead of the Clippers. We didn't talk about the Clippers until you brought it up, so I'm feeling like this is an extremely wide open playoffs. Now, ET, I want to come right back to you on this because you seem very high on the Lakers still. Are you feeling like this is a wide open playoffs, or are you looking at the Nets and the Lakers like they got the fast track to the finals?
Before LeBron went down, I said it was the Lakers championship to lose. Once LeBron went down and you started to see the emergence of teams like the Nuggets, you started to see how consistent the Jazz were playing. You start to see Phoenix, who's really playing well. I think that Monty Williams deserves every accolade as coach of the year. He should get it hands down, not even close. You see teams like that. You figure the West is probably a lot more wide open than the East. I'm going to say there's probably 4, maybe 5 teams that could come out. Even Portland is always a dark horse because Dame time is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
You got 5 teams in the West that could legitimately represent in the finals, and nobody would be super shocked.
Mm-hmm.
The East is a little different. I've literally got it as a 3-team race. It's the Sixers, the Bucks, or the Nets. It's only one of those 3 that's going to be coming out of the East. I don't see anybody else strong enough. I think Charlotte is a great story. Warms your heart. That's beautiful. The Celtics just lost Jaylen Brown for the year. They're done. They probably need to fire Brad Stevens anyway. I don't even really know who else is there, nor does it really matter. The Hawks.
The Knicks, another feel-good, warm your heart story, but there's realistic. Yeah, there's limitations to it.
Right. I mean, nobody else is a serious contender outside of those teams. But the West is where it's going to be really interesting. That Wild Wild West is going to be something to watch. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's 2 votes now for being the most wide open playoffs we've seen. Digits, what are you thinking?
Excuse me, just had to mute to sneeze really quick. Always good timing. But I mean, I agree. I think the East is not very fun to talk about. If it's not the Sixers, the Bucks, or the Nets, I think the whole world would be shocked, to put it mildly. So I think we'll just leave the East to rest. The West, and I agree with DT. I mean, I've been on the Lakers all year preseason. All the way up until the LeBron injury. It still feels hard to root against them if LeBron is playing in the playoffs. Maybe if his injury is still not fully healed, maybe he'll start to wear down and only be able to play 38 minutes a game instead of all of them. So that's really the biggest question mark to me, because even if LeBron plays, who are the teams that can take down a healthy Lakers team, like that have a real chance to do so? I think the Clippers. I think the Suns
in the West.
In the West.
It's the Clippers, and then it stops. That's it.
Really, you don't give the Suns any
I don't
chance.
even trust the Nuggets. Nuggets could have an MVP. I give the Suns a pseudo chance just because Chris Paul might be able to match up intellectually with LeBron. But even in terms of just dominance on the court, the Suns have nobody for AD. Not a mere soul for LeBron and AD. Not a mere soul.
That is a problem for sure.
So
I think the Suns could draw it out and maybe steal a game 7 at home kind of deal. I think the Clippers would be the biggest foe to the Lakers in the West, but they might not even have a chance to match up. So I think the West is the crazy thing with the West is that by this time, if we had this exact same conversation next week, all the seedings could be totally different, 1 through 6 or 1 through 7 even, and we would have to just totally scrap this conversation and restart from the ground up. So I think it'll be really interesting to see who ends up in the play-in, because if it's the Lakers, that's a huge issue for them, having to play those extra games, especially immediately when the season's done, maybe not even having that extra day off that other playoff teams would.
It sounded like you were a little more on the Lakers there. So YG,
I've been on them all year, and it's hard to commit to them right now because they have not been playing great. They had a great set of wins against the Suns,
in there. Max, I'm at the same spot because I go back and forth with Josh to answer the question is this the most wide open? Because even in the conversations we're having today, we find ourselves saying, but when the Lakers are at full strength, what is anybody really going to do about it?
See, I mean, I just think we've been conditioned to believe this, right? I mean,
because there's a reason for that.
Right,
there's a reason. Sure,
but LeBron James just said, "I don't feel the same." And maybe he's just trying to hype that up and play.
What did EG say? LeBron at 70% is better than 99.9%. He don't got to be at 100%, and they still could be title favorites.
I disagree with that.
He don't got to be at 100%.
Not at age 36, maybe at age 29. Not at age 36. That's not taking anything away from LeBron James, but LeBron and AD both not at 100%. That raises red flags for me, especially when you see them potentially playing in the play-in game. I think it's 100% the most wide open. I wouldn't be shocked if I don't think the Lakers are going to lose first round. That's not what I'm saying. I just also wouldn't be shocked if you one of the top 3 seeds in the West lose in the first round, which would really blow the whole
Jazz
thing
are susceptible to it. We already said the Jazz are susceptible to it for sure. Did you see Anthony Davis last night against the Suns? That boy looked 100%. That man looks like he's ready to go. There was nothing wrong with Anthony Davis last night. 42 on somebody.
42 and 14, I think. He went crazy last night. I watched that game.
42 and 16, he's fine. Talk about not AD, not 100%. He's fine. And the way he was speaking about LeBron makes me think that he knows when he goes behind closed doors, LeBron is rested. He's fine.
Remember, and the one thing to keep in mind really quick is they're starting on a season where they didn't get a full traditional offseason to rest. They played late into the year and then jumped right back into another season.
They got to rest mid-season. Yeah.
LeBron didn't get to go sit in the hyperbolic chamber for 3.5 months and recharge his batteries like he normally does. He had to come right back ready to play. So all of that takes a wear and tear. And keep in mind, LeBron got more miles on his body than a 92 Buick Skylark. So you got to take a little time to catch up. You know what I mean? You got to time. Take a little while. You can't be out there just rabbit start. You got to let it warm up a little bit. Right. Come on.
But with those hitches in the giddy up, that could happen at the wrong time. I think that's what levels the playing field. This is the this is the most human we've ever seen LeBron James.
Exactly.
So,
And that's the only reason why the Lakers aren't overwhelming favorites.
exactly. So to that point, there's it's a weird way you can kind of play both sides of this coin, because give the Lakers full strength. No, I don't legitimately I wouldn't bet on anybody else winning the championship, to be honest.
Especially with that roster. They got Schroeder and they got Marcus Morris.
But the fact that they go as far as LeBron James goes, if he does blow a tire, or if he's not able to give that extra oomph in a fourth quarter or something, then that makes them vulnerable. There's a kink in the armor, and then after that, it's up for grabs. After that, I believe anybody of the contenders can go and get it.
And that's what it comes down to, though. I mean, if you don't like, I believe that's what's going to happen. Like you said, he's got miles on him. I think at a certain point, you see the miles start taking a toll. I think we see it, but hey, I've been saying about Tom Brady too, and JJ knows a thing or two about that one. But anyways, yeah, all right. I don't know why I gave you that credit.
I don't know why.
I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
ET Dolphins fan over there has nightmares about Tom.
Oh my. Listen, I'm just glad he's out of the AFC East. I don't really care where he does now.
Now he just owns your whole state instead of just your division.
Last Sixers question here, gentlemen. Now, I mean, we've been talking about it with LeBron, and it's certainly not just LeBron and the Lakers. It's just been everyone. We've heard it. I don't need to rehash it. The long story short, though, is the Sixers, so many of these matchups they've played against these top-seeded teams have been not against the full-strength team. And the regular season is not at all the postseason. Now, Digits, you tell me, are you feeling concerned and are you feeling a bit like worried that the Sixers may not quite be tested enough going into the playoffs? Because they've faced a lot of these top teams with their star players out.
I'll say that group is very confident in themselves, and I think that they've shown that if they play their way, that they can hang with anybody. Mm-hmm. With that being said, every time we've talked about the Sixers this year, or maybe every other time, they got done playing a big game against the Nets or against another top tier team, but it's always been the Nets. I feel like every time it literally has been every time they've played the Nets this year, the Nets have been undermanned one which way, shape, or form. And I think that the biggest positive you can take out of this situation is that since the Sixers have been able to gel faster than Milwaukee with their new roster and B, stay healthier than the Nets, this 1 seed is going to be huge because they're going to have the opportunity to watch the 2 and 3 seed, which at this point is the Nets and the Bucks, battle it out in a second round series, which is probably going to go 7. And you have a lot of time to analyze that tape and figure out what the other teams are doing.
If you win your second round series, if you win your second round series, you don't just
we're running with the expectation here. We all said that we think it's a 3-horse race. And if we think it's a 3-horse race, the Sixers have an open lane on the left side.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to beat the Hawks or the Knicks, but
exactly. So, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but, if we're talking about how the regular season and the postseason matchup, we've played the Hawks and the Knicks and the Hornets and the Bulls and the Pacers. We've played all them full strength, and we washed the floor with them. So maybe it is pretty easy for me just to look over this. So I'm going to say this. I think that the 1 seed this year is – it's always important, but the fact that you're a 1 seed in a 3-horse race and you make the other 2 horses, battle for your enjoyment and for your competitive game, I think that's going to be maybe the biggest difference that can get this team to the finals because, maybe they're not as talented top to bottom as the Nets or the Bucks, but, sports is not all about the teams on paper. So I think that it's going to be, it's going to be fun either way. I'm ready for the postseason. I'm done with these games where I watch Tyrese Maxey and Matisse for 10 minutes in the fourth quarter. It's fun. But they blow leads a lot, and they worry me. I'm ready to get to the games where it's all forward all the time.
Yeah.
ET. Yeah, go ahead.
So a couple things. First things first. I tell people all the time that sports is a lot like the game of chess. You see it in football a lot where guys try to outthink. Coaches try to outthink the other coach, sometimes to a detriment. It's also true of basketball. Steve Nash has a brilliant offensive mind. He has great assistant coaches around him. If you don't think it's strategic that he would sit intentionally Kevin Durant against the Sixers or play him against the Bulls
the night before. Yeah. Yep.
He's doing it because it's a lot like watching preseason football in the NFL. The coach is not going to show you what he's actually going to run against you when he knows he's going to have to see you. He's going to give you just enough to make you think, yeah, get that false security, beat me when it doesn't matter, and then I'll mop you when it does. Nobody has seen Brooklyn at full strength with their three-headed monster clicking on cylinders. You will in the playoffs. And what he doesn't want to do is have Harden and KD and Kyrie all play in a game that means absolutely nothing when they know they're going to see them later on down the road. And then he can avail whatever offensive skill sets that they have and whatever sort of offensive flow that they've got that the Sixers aren't going to be prepared for because they have no tape on it. That's my thing. That said, I agree that the Sixers will probably get to sit there and watch the Bucks and the Nets battle it out, and that's fine. But the team I would be worried about if I'm the Sixers, and mark my words, if they get to them, it's going to be a series, the Washington Wizards. And here's why. Brody is playing on another level right now.
If Washington gets the 8 seed and you got to guard Beal and Brody?
They were left for dead 2 months ago. And somehow they're going to make the playoffs. And that's because Russell Westbrook has been playing out of his mind. And I am the biggest and first person to say Russell Westbrook is a gun. He's a hired gun. Everywhere he goes, he makes nobody better. But the one thing I gave him credit for with these triple doubles and these crazy numbers he's throwing up is not only is he getting these stats, but they're winning. They're beating good teams. They're not beating the Orlando Magics and, the Detroit Pistons of the world every night. They just went out and beat the Indiana Pacers, who are ahead of them in playoff seeding. So what I'm telling you is, if you give them a Russell Westbrook who's laser locked in and focused, and a Beal who we know can light the Sixers up for 50 ball, it can be a series. It's not going to be a walkthrough, and they'll trade off. And B can go have 38 and 20. That's fine. Okay, cool. Who else is going to score? Who else do you trust when you got to guard Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal? Simmons can only guard one of them. And Brody going to get his shots no matter what. He going to get to the rack no matter what. Nobody's standing in front of him. So that would be the one series if I said don't take them lightly. I'm not saying they won't beat them, but don't sleep on them. It's not going to be a 4 or 5. It'll be 6.
I was about to say, they're going to make them work for it. They're going to make them work for it. You getting 80, you getting 70 to 80 points a night from Brad Beal and Brody alone.
That makes it a battle. That makes it a battle. So, hey, yeah, they sit there and watch the Bucks and the Nets fight, but they got a fight on their hands too.
Fair play. I like that poll too. I thought you were going to go down the avenue of the Heat. I was surprised when you said the Wizards at first, and then
they shot their load last year
in the Mickey Mouse bubble where nothing really made sense. Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with they shot. They're almost in the same spot they were last year. I don't know if they shot their load as much as just.
Tyler Hero was out there looking like Jerry West, and now he's out there looking like Jerry.
But he was doing this in the regular season last year. The turn Jerry West and Jerry Seinfeld.
He done turned into a superstar and gotten to that Miami life and wants to party with the girls all day instead of focusing on ball. That's why he's been.
Yeah, too busy with Jack Harlow and the ladies over in Miami to be.
He tied down. He got himself a nice little woman.
They traded for Nemanja Bjelica from the Kings, and he doesn't even get a minute on the floor. That's crazy to me because he was a solid double guy.
Right.
He was a nice Boris Diaw type who could fit the role and get in there and give you a little bit of everything. He don't even hit the floor. That tells you something's wrong with chemistry there.
Jimmy J, what are your thoughts on the Sixers tested and then how it's going to affect them in the playoffs?
I mean, should they be worried? Hell yeah, they absolutely should be worried. It's the worry is very much warranted. And ET said it all. Like them sitting Kevin Durant, and then when Kevin Durant goes out, James Harden goes and misses what he's missed the last 2 to 3 weeks with a hamstring strain. Something that all you got to do is stretch it out in the locker room. You good to go, big boy. So I think this is definitely calculated in terms of what Steve Nash and the Nets are doing. And if you're the Sixers, it's got to worry you because James Harden said it best. He doesn't believe that anyone can beat them 4 times in a week. It's not a one-off playoff. And I think the Sixers would be so much more confident if you haven't seen the Nets, but I only got to go out and beat them 1 time. So they have to try to put all this together in one game to try to figure it all out, match up with us, and beat us. And you might get a game or 2 or 3 against the Nets, but you got to beat them 4 times before they beat you 4 times. And that's going to be so tough when you're adjusting on the fly, when you have to watch game 1, play them, and then try to go and adjust to it and write a game plan for it for game 2. Meanwhile, they're adapting as they go. They're getting better against you in the series as they go, and you're just trying to get what you've seen. Say it again?
They've seen your full strength.
Exactly. And you're just now seeing it. And they've seen you time after time after time again. And not only that, the Nets along the season have revamped, added pieces like Blake Griffin, and y'all are lucky LaMarcus Aldridge decided to hang him up. That's just someone else that you had to deal with the fold too. We talked about that episodes ago, but LaMarcus Aldridge in the playoffs would have given a bunch of people headaches. That's all I'm going to say. So the Sixers absolutely should be worried, and that's just one team that they got to be worried about. I know they played the Bucks at full strength, but they haven't played PJ Tucker and them. They haven't played the new look more Bucks. That's just another team that they have yet to play in their final form. So they're sitting pretty at the one seed, one not right now. But there are definitely reasons to be concerned if you're the Sixers. It's not, you have to see all these teams at their full strength at some point.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think they are getting disrespected in the championship odds. But I can still say that and also turn around and say I'd feel much better if some of these wins against the Nets came with all those guys. These games, the games against the Nuggets were played with both teams at full strength. There's so many questions I have still going to the playoffs. So yeah, I'm with you guys. Cause for concern. I'm not smacking any panic buttons, but I'm afraid the Sixers might get popped in the face a little bit, like you were saying, JJ, and playing catch up from game one as opposed to setting the tone. Mm-hmm. Now, big Sixers episode so far. We're coming in the home stretch. I'm sure next week we'll be going full on playoff preview mode. But there's been a lot of talks about the Philadelphia Eagles lately, and a pretty polarizing topic as well. Two guys the Eagles have been linked to within this past week by pretty reputable sources, mind you.
No, please let me go first.
The two, and JJ, I will. I'll let you go first. You really wanted it, so I'll let you go first. You know what? Is there any fire, this smoke surrounding Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson's names being connected to the Philadelphia Eagles? JJ, what do we got?
I almost can't speak. I'm so mad. First of all, why do y'all think you're some hot commodity destination right now? Like, why do y'all think people? Like, why
don't lump all of us in here, please.
Why do you think two of the premier quarterbacks who can decide their destination if they get traded want to go to y'all? Why? What makes you think that? And then reputable sources, ET, I don't know what social media world you live in, but since you're the other non-Eagles fans on the show, who's talking about the Eagles getting Deshaun Watson and Aaron Rodgers? Not a damn person.
Nobody.
Not a damn person. And the reason why I'm so mad, OG, let me tell you, is because I cited Ian Rappaport one day, a reputable, verified source, and I got mocked for it because you can't believe Rap Sheet. So what Joe Blow from around the block set this out on Twitter and got y'all biting at it? Are you kidding me? Shut it all the way down. That's the reason I wanted to go first, because shut it all the way down. Deshaun Watson and Aaron Rodgers ain't coming to Philadelphia. Don't even get people. Like, come on, man. Come on. Don't even get people.
Number one media, right?
All sorts of gas. If you think that Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers, one of them, even got Philadelphia typed into their Google search, let alone coming to play football here. Get out of here, man.
Just two things, JJ. Real quick. Before we move on, I want to answer both of the questions that you asked.
I'm hot. Go ahead.
The answer is Peter King. Peter King is the writer who is fanning this flame right now. So there's your answer.
Good morning, football. Peter King. I didn't. Go ahead.
Peter King's looking for some filler content.
Yeah, I don't know what Pete's doing, but he don't mean that.
I'll say this in defense of Josh's question. When the whole Deshaun Watson thing first broke, there were some, the Eagles were floated out there because we've been known to make crazy moves, and this is a weird situation. Whoever I think it is, I think the Aaron Rodgers thing must be a Barry McCocken, or that must be an exclusive.
Someone playing around
because that is some malarkey, Josh. I don't know who you're following on Twitter, buddy, but I have not seen who says yes to that. Who says yes to that? Not a who says no. Who says yes to that from any side?
What do y'all got? Besides a whole bunch of draft picks, y'all just gonna throw 5 first-round picks at either one of these teams over it sticks?
Well, that's the thing, because listen, I don't want it to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm out here just saying the Eagles have 3 first-round picks next year, and if the Packers' option are either get 3 first-round picks or let this guy retire, there is a legitimate discussion there. Now, I don't think it's going to happen, nor do I want it to happen. I'm just telling you the rationale.
So I'll chime in and say this. The Miami Dolphins had the absolute best chance and the most assets to offer for Deshaun Watson because we could put Tua, Byron Jones, and 2 ones together and go get a top 5 quarterback. And we laid off of it. Why? Because we're trusting our process and building our team the right way. The reason why Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson would never play for the Eagles is the same reason Pat Mahomes will never leave Kansas City. The team that they're on is better than the team that they would go to. Aaron Rodgers would leave a team with an offensive line that loves him to an Eagles team that can't protect him. He would come behind a team with a running back that can't stay healthy versus a running back who was top 5 in the NFL and go play with receivers that can't catch football passes further than me and you can throw versus Devontae Adams, who's top 3 in the NFL. There's no logic and a reason as to why Aaron Rodgers would say yes to anything that involves him coming here. I don't care who you put out there. You could have gave him the Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith, and he would have still said no. You know why? Because Aaron Rodgers owns Green Bay. He comes to Philly. He don't own Philly. He would get a pass, but he knows how this media works. And Green Bay, they love him. They let that man go do Jeopardy, and everybody watched. He could be in Philadelphia and not be a part of every sports talk show getting crushed, talk about he should have been working in the offseason with the receivers and all sort of nonsense. That said, the only reason Deshaun Watson hasn't moved, and I've said this, the whole scandal with all the little women and the creepy touching and stuff, first of all, if you read the messages that were posted on social media and released, none of it was illegal. Creepy, yes, but none of it was illegal. None of it was criminal. I'll give a pass. He was a little bit creepy with it. Creepy. Yeah, but not illegal. Nothing that's going to warrant the man going to jail, which is why you haven't heard a single person bringing federal charges against
There's
that
no
man.
evidence. They haven't received any evidence against him yet.
It's all smoke and mirrors to drive down the value so teams don't want him because they don't want the political hit. Let's be honest. He's a black quarterback. He'd be going to a team somewhere where they probably would frown on the fact that he has women touching on him. They're not going to like it. The only person who's ever gotten a pass for stuff like that is Ben Roethlisberger. Anybody, and he actually was charged with some creepy stuff, okay? Nobody else has actually done that stuff and got the pass. I mean, Michael Vick was getting crucified for dog. I can't imagine what Deshaun Watson would get done in this city with the charges held against him that people are putting out there. That said, I think Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans are at an impasse. I don't think he stays there much longer. I think they're going to trade him at some point. If he's smart, he just sits out the whole year and lets them stink because – he signed a contract. He's going to get most of his money anyway, but there's no reason for him to play behind a team that doesn't have any talent around him with a coach that's not going to help him win. He doesn't want to be there. Let him go. You let J.J. Watt walk for nothing. You could trade him and get a decent package, but they don't want to. The fact that the lawyer behind that is the same guy who's friends with the owner says all you need to know about the fact that where there's smoke, there's fire. Anybody saying anything else is not paying attention to the tea leaves. All of that aside, I don't see the Eagles making a trade for him. I don't see the Eagles giving up what it would take to get Aaron Rodgers. Now, if this was the Eagles team of 2017, and they had a chance to trade Carson Wentz for Aaron Rodgers back when Wentz had value and they still had a championship team, I'd say that would have been a trade they would have done. But this team, no, listen, I could go to Central High School and I'd like the varsity team of Central High over the Eagles right now. Right now.
No cap. Imhotep. I just called the Imhotep Northeast game. I'll take Imhotep or Northeast over one of them.
Give me the points. Give me the points. I like them.
All right, listen, here's the thing, though. I just wanted to say this about Rodgers because, E.T., I love what you said about Deshaun Watson, but I feel like you're acting like Aaron Rodgers wants to play in Green Bay still.
He doesn't want to play in Green Bay, but here's the thing. He knows that he's under contract for a few more years. They're not going to let him walk unless they want him to walk. He has no leverage to get out of there, just like Deshaun Watson. The difference is Deshaun Watson's 25, Aaron Rodgers is plus 35. That's the only difference. Teams would give a boatload for Deshaun Watson. Only teams that's going to trade for Aaron Rodgers are teams in positions to win now, like my Miami Dolphins. I wouldn't be mad if we traded Tua and 2 ones for Aaron Rodgers. I wouldn't. But then I'm also the same guy who wants Deshaun Watson, too, who gives you a franchise quarterback for the next decade. I screamed all along we should have got Justin Herbert. We passed on him and took Tua. I said, okay. Then we saw Herbert light the world up and Tua struggle and stink and Fitzmagic have to save him 3 times. Now I'm at a place where it's like, listen, if you can go get one of these elite quarterbacks who don't come out very often, you go and you get them. Because a guy like Aaron Rodgers in Miami makes them a Super Bowl contender. A guy like Deshaun Watson in Miami makes them a Super Bowl contender. A guy like Deshaun Watson in Philadelphia takes them from 7-9 or 7-10.
Oh, that's very generous. 7-10 is so generous. I'm 5-12.
Wow, you think you have a 7? I appreciate it.
9-8. Like they get 2 wins better because of how good he is. But at the end of the day, they're not a championship team. Same with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers might get them 10 wins, but are they going to beat any of the creme de la creme? Are they going to beat the Rams, who traded for Matt Stafford, who's a huge upgrade over Jared Goff? No. Are they even better than the Seattle Seahawks? No.
And here's the thing. Josh, here's what maybe you and apparently Peter King doesn't understand, which I'm baffled, by the way, because you want to talk about an OG in the broadcast journalism game. There's Peter King. But what you guys both don't understand is that you're in the middle of a rebuild, a stripping down stripping down and building back up. So in a stripping down and building back up. No, but you're over here saying, what if we have 3 first-round picks? What if we put them together? That's your future. That's what you're using to build.
And you're going to need a whole line in the next 3 years. A whole line.
A whole lot. And no move you could make right now. If Aaron Rodgers isn't the guy, there's like 2 or 3 other people who maybe could be it. But there's no move right now that makes you a title contender. There's a move that ET says gets you a little bit better, but then just puts you in the middle of the first round in no man's land. Why would you want to be there? So you have to – it is build time. Those draft picks probably shouldn't go anywhere but to be utilized in the draft next year.
JJ, I 100% agree. I just think that there might be some fire to this smoke in the sense where let's not forget about the guy who's the general manager and how crazy he is. I don't think either of these guys are coming here, but I do think phone calls were made from Howie Roseman regarding these 2 names in some capacity.
There's also power in the players. Deshaun Watson maybe because he doesn't have any power, but Aaron Rodgers actually does have the power to go to Green Bay and say, here, if you do, I don't want to be here, and there's a list of teams that I'm going to play for next year. You trade me to anybody else, I'm sitting down. Like he has the ability to do that. So or the leverage and the cachet to do that. Deshaun Watson may be a little bit too young and unproven to be able to do that, but Aaron Rodgers has that ability, and Philadelphia isn't on that short list.
Any other piece to that too in terms of Howie Roseman to circle back. Howie Roseman is the same guy who perennially has missed in the draft. So let's go back. Everybody thinks Howie Roseman had a great draft because he got Devontae Smith by trading up, getting the extra pick. I'll give him credit for that.
He made a good first-round move.
It was a great first-round move. Does anybody really know any tape on the rest of the people that they really picked up, being honest?
No, they're shaky. No. They're shaky picks. They're shaky picks. The rest of their second-round pick is a guy who couldn't stay healthy.
Got Devontae Smith. What he did was essentially make Jalen Reagor better because now Jalen Reagor doesn't have to be the guy. He can be the true number 2 slot guy that he wasn't last year.
Stop. You guys go to Florida and talk about your teams, all right?
We're getting way off topic here. Yeah. We're going backwards in time talking about the Eagles draft. I can't do it.
Come on.
Sorry. I wasn't privy to that show.
Me neither.
He wasn't here. He wasn't here though. He wasn't here.
I wasn't here either. I'm just hearing slander after slander after slander, and
it's a crazy question from a crazy.
Yeah, Josh, you're reading what you saw on this one. You don't get the benefit of the doubt.
Like you put this crazy question from this crazy headline, and I had to hear show after show after show how I can't believe Ian Rappaport because of his stuff, and I see this on the script. I purposely left it so I guess
Peter King's on the black.
If we can't trust Ian Rappaport, Peter King, who
for the show now?
Like who can we trust out here then?
Shefty. That's it.
It's pretty true. Well, gentlemen, that's going to wrap up our main event for today. And our main event going into halftime. This is all brought to you by our proud media partner at PHLSportsNation.com. Go check us out on there and check out any Philly news you want. You know, they got all the 4 sports. They got the Philadelphia Union. I'm sure if our beloved Philadelphia Soul were back out there, they'd be covering them too. So go check us out on PHLSportsNation.com. And while you're there, go check out all the other content they have on that website. Now, gentlemen, we're going to move right on to our rapid fire segment. We're going to, you guys know how it works. We got ET in the building. He's a veteran of the program. Now, folks, we kind of went through the main event without talking about the Phillies because since we've talked about them last, there's been ups, there have been downs. Now, the question I got to ask is if this team, which they're either first or second currently, the NL East is so weird, but let's say, they drop off. They make the full drop off. What would be their Achilles heel be this season? And Digis, I want to come to you with this one first. So if they fall out of playoff contention, what's ultimately going to be the reason?
It's the closer. It's not even the whole bullpen this year. They are blowing a game out of every 3 leads that they have. They're blowing a game late. It's always late. It's never. I mean, I'm not going to say it's never. Their bullpen hasn't been best in the league, but it's not a continuous meltdown from innings 6 through 9 anymore. It feels like Neris is maybe has the hottest seat in the whole world in terms of job security right now. I want to say I can't imagine they're not looking, but this ownership has shown a propensity to not be too aggressive. So I'm just going to say that I hope that they are actively looking at and evaluating all possible solutions to this problem, because even if you shore that number up by not even half, give me a 40% increase on that. Even if that's 2 games out of every 5 you're not blown, that is enough to get this team a division title. They're barely over 500 right now. They would have a comfortable lead with 2 less blown saves. They'd have a 3-game lead already, and that's enough to start building on when you're in early May. You can blow that open by the end of this month if you keep playing well. It sounds a little bit far fetched, but if you're telling me you're up 6 games in your division after 2 months, are you not comfortably ahead?
Oh, that's not the part I'm cocking my head at. That's not the part. You gotta leave my man Heck alone. My man Hector Neris is you know what I mean? Let's calm down a little bit.
I wish him all the best, but he's stinking it up.
All those blown leads are not Hector's fault, or they're not all of him.
So I'm gonna piggyback off of that and say Hector Harris has a 2 ERA and has converted 6 out of 8 save opportunities.
Yeah, he's been all right.
Hector been all right. The problem is they're missing Archie Bradley, the big acquisition that they got in the offseason. Archie Bradley was the guy supposed to come here and take that job and give them that security. Now Neris is forced into a role he's uncomfortable. That's the problem with the team. It's the same issue they had a couple years ago when they went and signed David Robertson for like $35 million for 3 years, and the man threw 6 innings and never pitched again. Like last year. When the guys you out and get in the offseason to fix a problem don't come in and play. They have to come in and play well. The one thing I'll say about Papelbon, granted, people hated Papelbon, but when he came in and he played. Brad Lidge, say what you want about Brad Lidge, but when he went and got Brad Lidge, he came in and he played. Like, getting the guy that you're coming to be your closer has to come in and be able to play. Joe Table, listen, Jose Mesa, bust out name. When he came in, he played. But when you got guys that can't come in there and throw to close the game out, that have shaky stuff, that are throwing meatballs over the plate, it's because they're playing out of position. You got to get up. Listen, I'm going to give you another name. Scott Kingery. Scott Kingery's a huge problem with this team.
Big problem.
Contract and ain't worth $6,000. Okay? Mm-hmm. Terrible.
Big
but
problem.
He takes the roster spot. They got rid of Cesar Hernandez for him. He's terrible. And the problem is, you've got guys like that on your team who underperform their contract. Reese looks like he's turning the corner. Harper is Harper. You got Kutch on the back of a bad leg. He's just about done. All right, cool. They don't have a center fielder. That's a problem. Adubo Herrera is finally starting to swing the bat like he knows how to play in the majors, but they don't have a consistent fielder. Roman Quinn stays hurt. Center field and the closer are the 2 reasons why this team won't win. I don't even blame Girardi because he can only throw out there what he has. If I got to throw David Hale because Hector Neris is tired, I got to throw David Hale. We know if David Hale comes in, you might as well just change the channel and put the L in the column. He stinks too.
Yeah, I mean, you get the JT Realmuto's. The eye roll when David Hale come in, spit his ass in for the bullpen.
As soon as he does this,
God, I know what's about to happen. This ball sprinting in from the bullpen again. I know what's about to happen.
Jimmy J, what's wrong with this team?
The same thing. I think it's something in Philadelphia. The same thing that is the Achilles heel of the Sixers. Same thing that's the Achilles heel of the Eagles. They can't win on the road, but they can win at home. 13-6 at home, 5-11 on the road. You sweep teams like the Braves at home, then you go out somewhere and you can't pick up wins anywhere, and you start blowing leads.
They got fans.
It's
There's no fans in our ballpark.
Stuff starts falling off the hinges. And, a place like Atlanta is full capacity, so they're out there. They're out there in numbers. So, but even still, that's going to be your Achilles heel. You got to be able to win on the road. And in baseball, you don't have to win as much on the road. In baseball, you can win the least on the road of the 3 major sports and be successful. But the Phillies don't win at all on the road. You got to be somewhere close to that 500 mark. And right now, I said it earlier, they're 5-11. If they don't get that around, and ET, you're talking about, I don't blame Girardi. That is a manager thing. That I can put on Girardi, an experienced World Series winning manager. You got to be able to see stuff like that in your team to make those corrections. And the disparity between home and away shouldn't be that bad. You know what it takes to win a World Series, and you're boasting and commenting that this team is ready to win a championship right now. We're constructed to do so, and you're dropping that many games on the road. That's a managerial thing. That's a top-down type of thing. I get players got to perform. But the disparity shouldn't be that much. If the Sixers were that bad on the road, if the Eagles were that bad on the road, we'd be calling for the coach's head. We'd be saying it's a coach's problem too. It's the same thing in baseball. It's a manager thing. He's got to be responsible.
But in his defense, and I'm gonna say this: the LA Dodgers were the hottest team in baseball to start the year, and they've fallen off the rails.
But that's home and away. That's home and away. That's not just on the road.
But they just won the World Series. They're allowed to come out slow.
But all teams, what I'm saying to you, the point I'm making is all teams, if you look, are all hovering around 500. That's how baseball is. Guys always start slow in the spring. They warm up as the weather gets warm up and the ball travels a little bit further. Balls that were stopping at the warning track are now carrying out of the park. That happens in baseball. Teams have to get into a rhythm. Keep in mind, it's the first time they had a full offseason to really kind of prepare to come into the season. So there's training issues. You see a lot of hamstrings, a lot of core muscle tissue injuries. Guys are getting back into that rhythm of playing a full 162-game season, just like basketball. Give them a little time. What I will say is this: despite all of that 5-game win streak has them a couple games ahead of everybody else in the division, so they have some cushion. Do I think that they're better than the San Francisco Giants? I absolutely do. I don't trust Gabe Kapler any more than,
Giants are balling. The Giants are hooping. Giants are hooping.
I think these boys can win. I think that when you've got Eflin, Wheeler, and take away last night, Nola actually looking like decent pitchers, you actually have a team that can compete because you've got a solid 1, 2, 3. Remember, we said they always needed another quality starter. Eflin's finally stepped into that number 3 role.
I love it.
And he's been and even Vinny Velasquez.
Vinny Velo. Vinny Velo's last start. How about it going deep into the 7th?
5 innings, 112 pitches, 67 balls.
Vinny Velo's trying to turn it up one time.
4 runs. Like you knew what he was going to give you. Now he's getting 2 games clean, giving up a run, maybe 2. If you
6th and 7th inning, going deep in the game, 6th and 7th inning type. That'll help the closer.
You save this bullpen. You're not taxing them all crazy, having to bring in guys in the 2nd inning. You have a chance once Bradley gets back. They may need to go get another bullpen piece just to kind of add some stability, but they need to address center field. There are way too many outfielders out here that they can go and get one that can play center field, because that is what's going to kill them.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to address 2 of those things. One is the Hector, of course. I consider myself to be a Hector protector. I talked about the Matt Moore posse earlier in the year. The one that I really want to get going now is Hector's protectors out there in the right field stands.
I'm with it, man. Heckman, all right.
That's good.
Heckman, all right.
That being said, I think he's a tremendous reliever, and I think he literally might be, like, aside from Bryce and maybe Bohm, he's like my favorite Philly. Like, he's hilarious.
Interesting. So obviously, I think I was a little bit too hyperbole with my Hector Neris criticism. It's just that when he crashes and burns, spectacularly, and he'll blow a 4-run save. And whenever he blows saves, it's ugly. It's a lazy fastball over the middle, a hanging breaking ball. Like, you see the Hector Neris blown saves coming. And there have been times where he's wiggled out of blown saves because we've come back and won the game. And I
agree with that.
So it's just that I don't. After the last 2 years, I feel like I can't give him the benefit of the doubt yet, even though he has 6 saves and 2 blown officially.
I agree, Max. I was just going to say I think he's a tremendous reliever and he should be trusted, but I think you need to explore someone else at that closer spot. He's shown, and it shocks me to hear he's only had 2 blown saves this year, because it does feel, I guess, like more. But it's not just this year; it's the big moment as we lose ET. Hopefully, we'll get it back in a sec. But I think he can be a great pitcher, but maybe not a closer. And I mean, what I think is wrong with this team, I think it is Joe Girardi. I really do, and I'm not.
Stop.
What do you mean? Listen,
Stop.
I liked Gabe Kapler when he was here. I wanted to keep him here. I thought Gabe Kapler did a fine job as the manager, and now you are undebatedly better than you ever were when Gabe Kapler was the manager, and you're doing exactly the same, more or less, just middling. can't really get over how,
Josh,
and it's the away team thing. It's the away games thing that comes back to your manager. You have to get your boys ready. And this weekend it really stuck with me. The way that they collapsed Saturday and they let it affect them on Sunday. That comes back to your manager.
That's
so. I mean, look, we can drone on about that all day. I don't want to do the Gabe Kapler thing anymore. All right, we'll do it again. I'm sure we'll do it again later this season. I'm not doing it right now. We're going back into basketball real quick, though, boys, because this is something I've been thinking about an awful lot ever since the season started. ET, I want to come to you with this one. You seem to really be thinking: is Embiid the best Philly athlete we've had since Allen Iverson?
So you're asking me to go back over a period of 20 years, a better athlete? Well, we know it's nobody. I mean, you could argue, T.O. You could argue, but his longevity.
That's the first one that came to my mind was T.O. Athlete.
T.O. I mean, because are we talking athlete, superstar,
that's what I'm saying.
Former?
Best Philly athlete.
45 years old is in better shape than everybody on this podcast, and it's not close.
That's not much.
So I mean, athlete, yeah, basketball player. I mean, I'm gonna give Embiid the benefit of the doubt, but I can't go as far as athlete because there are guys who actually, in terms of being an athlete, a pure athlete, that are just better. But in terms of if we're looking at totality of play within their sport,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, I'll give you that because he's playing like an MVP candidate. People would have argued Wentz a few years ago, but we saw that train fall off the tracks. I don't even know who the Flyers have that's even good anymore. Like who cares? And I mean, the last Philly that I thought that was a great athlete was Ryan Howard, and he hasn't been here in 5 years. So I'm going to argue and say that yes, Embiid, based on prisoner of the moment, Embiid's doing it right now. He's in his prime. He's leading this team deep on the playoffs. They actually have a chance to win a title. Yes, I would say Embiid is the best athlete in his sport, respectively, since Allen Iverson.
There we go. JJ, whoa, you're shaking your head. What are we thinking, JJ?
You said it, ET. You said two people I was thinking of, and one, when you said them, I was like, yeah, that's the right answer. Embiid doesn't have it. He might be playing like an MVP candidate, but there were two Phillies who did win MVP, and one of them is Ryan Howard, who had one of the most dominant stretches the MLB has seen in recent memory. So, like Embiid, I think you hit it on the head when you said the prisoner of the moment. He's doing it right now. He's in his athletic prime. And basketball is such a fun sport when you're dominant to watch, especially a center, that the easy pick is Joel Embiid. But I'm talking about a batting champion, an MVP, a silver slugger, like Ryan Howard. When Ryan Howard had his run, it was scary how good he was for the Phillies. He's not as athletic as Embiid, obviously, but and the way Embiid is dominating the NBA, we saw Ryan Howard dominate the MLB like that. He had an absolutely crazy run. I might go 08 Ryan Howard, 09 Ryan Howard before all that, man. He was a beast.
No, I like it, JJ. I had to think about that too. Digits, what are we thinking though?
I'm very interested that you picked Ryan Howard over Jimmy Rollins because Jimmy.
I know. I wanted to go Jimmy Rollins. Ryan Howard's stretch was a little bit just more like dominant.
I agree.
Okay. See, for me, I think that Ryan Howard was amazing at being a power hitter, but Jimmy Rollins was a 5-tool guy. He was he was doing it all for the Phillies, and I think that his lows weren't nearly as low as Ryan Howard's because there were times when Ryan Howard would, with no outs, he's hitting a towering pop fly to the shortstop and the inning would collapse. And Jimmy Rollins was the oil in that machine, kept things moving. Him and Utley were, but Utley wasn't as good as a player as Rollins were. So I think that kind of defaults me to Rollins as my choice here. I think Embiid is certainly in this conversation. And it's really just a matter of the title and the playoff success. And I think that Embiid, if he continues on even a remotely similar trajectory, I think he'll probably edge out Rollins or Howard or, I don't know if we're including Brian Dawkins in this, but I know that he would get a lot of love in a conversation like this in terms of his ability as a player. I think that Embiid will eventually take this crown with – I think one title is probably all it takes.
Here's something y'all not gonna want to hear, but McNabb is somewhere in this conversation. Y'all not gonna want to hear that. Y'all not gonna want to hear that, but he's
McNabb's on the outside looking in though because He didn't stack up enough against his peers at his same position, and he had an ugly falling out here. He had a real ugly falling out here. And part of this question is
if it's top 5, McNabb is like 6.
Like,
Exactly.
How about this?
It's not fun that he's in there, but he's in there. I don't enjoy seeing McNabb at the function, but he's there.
Let me just throw this out though. At any point in Donovan McNabb's entire career, did anyone try and make the case that he was the best player in the NFL?
No.
And that's where it ends.
You mean with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning played football?
No.
Like LeBron James is playing right now, and Joel Embiid is playing better than him, and that's facts. So I don't know. This is tough for me. I'm going with Embiid just because I don't think I've ever seen such a dominant athlete in the city in my life. The two guys, the one guy that
Howard was this dominant. Yes, he was.
No, he was.
Yes, he was.
It's hard for any baseball player to be that dominant. Ryan Howard didn't hit for a high enough average, I don't think.
So Ryan Howard's 2-3 year span where he was him and Roy Halladay. I think we're forgetting a little bit about Roy Halladay because he wasn't here for very long.
Doc was more
ET, you cut out a little bit. What'd you say?
I said I'd argue that Doc Holliday was probably the most dominant Philly during that span.
Yep.
What he did was just
I would too.
Ridiculous.
He was
better.
He was post World Series. Like he came after it. Ryan Howard did it and won a ring in the midst.
Man, that was a sin that we never got to a ring.
Over Ryan Howard is because Ryan Howard won the World Series and Doc didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quite honestly, that's why I give it to Embiid, because I was jockeying between Doc and Ryan Howard, because I think it's Doc, Howard, and Embiid, and Jimmy Rollins is just behind them in my mind. Max, I give it it's a good call.
When you're talking about best Philly athlete, what single accolade does Embiid have to put him in the same category as 2 MVPs and a guy who threw a perfect game in a playoff no-hitter in back-to-back years? Like Embiid has not done this.
Their body in peak physical condition, not crushing Chick-fil-A every chance they get.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I don't think Embiid has done. When you talk about best Philly athlete, now you take into consideration individual accomplishments and accolades, and Embiid just hasn't done that. He doesn't have a Rookie of the Year under his belt. Like he doesn't have a single accolade.
That's a different conversation.
At the end of the day, he doesn't have it. At the end of the day, Malcolm Brogdon got the joint. So
it's true. Hey, I was thinking about
and now you're talking to champions, MVPs, and record holders. Like to say best Philly athlete since Allen Iverson, Embiid's had to have done some things, and he just hasn't.
Doing some things. These guys are he's doing some things. Just you wait. And hey, I'm a big eye test guy. Also, I mean, I think it's Embiid. I think it's Embiid, Doc, and Howard also based off the eye test. But gentlemen, we're gonna move on. I like this question. I want to pocket it. I think we could have a little bracket, have a little game out of this too. But we'll come back to this one. Last question of the day, fellas. It's been a bit polarizing lately. I'm pretty excited. The play-in tournament. Are you in? Are you out? Are you a fan? What are your thoughts on it, Mr. Digits?
This iteration, no, I don't like it. I don't think you should be rewarded just for being a seed. I think they should go back to how it was last year. If you are within X games of 8th place, then you qualify, because it's not fair. If you're 6 games out of between 8th and 9th, or between 8th and 10th, you don't deserve that opportunity. And quite honestly, I think that the play-in tournament last year spawned because of the bubble, and I think the play-in tournament was needed last year. I don't think we need it, but I understand why meaningful games that teams are, this is what their whole season is built up to. I'm all for that. But I think that it needs to be more exclusive, because quite honestly, the 10th and 11th seeded teams are very, very, very rarely even worthy of consideration for the 8th spot, let alone a chance to play and play against a team that has real championship aspirations.
All right, fair play.
So I'm gonna come back and say this: one of the best and most favorite times in the sporting year is that little pocket between opening weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Right. You got full swing basketball. You're just coming off the NFL, and March Madness is kicking off. And you know what makes it great? Because of the fact that the play-in tournament has so many things going on, so many teams just hoping for a chance. Teams that but that's what makes it great. Some little Cinderella D2 nobody nothing school from the middle of the Midwest comes out and knocks off a juggernaut, and now they're a Cinderella story. I mean, we saw it last year. How many upsets? Most people's brackets were going by night 2. Like,
yeah, but you want to see that in college. No one wants to see that in the league. I don't want to see Brian lose in the first round.
But here's what I'm saying. Cream's going to rise to the top, and stars are going to show up. Do I think that, if Russell Westbrook didn't sit as many games as he sat this year, that the Washington Wizards would be looking at the bottom seed instead of maybe like the 5th or 6th seed? Absolutely. And I think because of that, they can get in and make noise. Do I think the Charlotte Hornets are really going to beat anybody? No, regardless as to whether they're the 6th seed or the 10th seed. I just don't. I don't think they're ready. But that's where Cream rises to the top. Now look at the West. Look at the teams that are 6 through 10. Do you really want to see a playoffs without the Lakers, without the Mavericks? I mean, look at the teams that are fighting for that playing spot. The Spurs, which has always made the playoffs.
Warriors, the Pelicans. I want to see the Pelicans and the Grizzlies. I want to see these teams in the playoffs. These are exciting.
Ja Morant playing in the playoffs.
Yeah,
the Pelicans yet because Zion's hurt now. You definitely want
Zion shut down. That's true.
But you want to see Ja Morant? I like Ja Morant. I think he's a great player. I think if they get another big piece, a nice acquisition, they'll make some noise. They're basically where Dallas was 2 years ago. So I think that all of that speaks to the fact that as these teams continue to get better, the West just is so loaded. I mean, I get it because the East has bad basketball. You got the Bulls. You got, the Celtics who are injured. You got I get it. But the West is loaded. Like any one of those teams, 6 through 10 in the West could easily be a 4 or 5 seed, but they just didn't win enough games. So, yeah, sure, why not? Let them play in. Let them keep the spark. And you get bonus basketball for nothing.
Yeah.
For every month you get bonus basketball. I want more playoff basketball. Just like an extra game in the NFL, I want more football. Get rid of that preseason game and give me another regular season game that matters. I want it. That's me. I like it. I've always been a fan of competitive balance. I think it gives those teams that aren't as good, aren't as stacked, a chance to have a chance to compete. And if they lose, they lose, but at least they're there.
I love it, ET. I'm with you here. JJ, I'll let you finish it out, and then I'll respond to that.
I think I'm with it just from the logistics standpoint. Like I completely get it. Like Max, you said you don't think we need it. You think we needed it in the bubble. I do think we need it because of those 10 less games at the regular season. Like you look at the previous year's playoffs and how they've gone. The 9th and 10th team, usually are separated by a game or two. Now, You're right. If they come in and they're 6 games behind, then, yeah, maybe there should have been a game limit as to, when they can make the play-in tournament to be within a certain amount of games. But normally, those teams that are missing the playoffs are missing it by a game or 2 or 3. And you're right. The season comes down to this last home stretch, and that last home stretch got taken away. So you got to be able to make up for it at some point. You got to be able to get these fringe teams, and we know the NBA is very aware of who these fringe teams are. Guys like Ja Morant and Zion Williamson and LaMelo Ball, they're all in fringe teams, and we're investing our future into these guys. So there's a little wrinkle of that. But you have to give them the opportunity to make up for that when those 10 less games are taken away. So I was on the fence about this question, whether yay or nay, but I just think I get it too much to not be for it. Who doesn't like more playoff basketball? Like, I get it if you're LeBron James or you're the Lakers, you're the Heat. You barely had this offseason, and now just because we slid a little bit, because we're tired, because we made the finals, now we have to play an extra game, put extra mileage on the tires just to, finish out the playoffs. So I understand the backlash to it, but it just makes sense, and it's exciting. Like, it's not, it's not like we're adding these extra games and they're going to be blowouts. Like, we're adding extra games of really exciting basketball, and it's starting to turn up at the right time.
No, exactly. And I'm usually not a fan of adding more teams to the playoffs, but I think this is like you make them play into the playoffs. So you're not actually adding more teams in the playoffs. You're just giving a few more teams the opportunity. And ET, back to what you said about comparing it to March Madness. I love that. That was what I thought too. And the other thing you see in March Madness sometimes is you get one of these Cinderella teams, and then they see them win in the first round. They start believing in themselves. They get the swagger going, and they pop someone in the face the next round too, and they're not expecting it. And I just can't stand. I think the first weekend or the first week of the NBA playoffs is typically terrible. You see the 1 seed and the 2 seed just blow them out. I think having 1 or 2 games of intense playoff basketball while the other team's resting and sitting on their couch watching, I think you could see a few of these teams from the play-ins steal a game or two, maybe not two, but maybe steal a game and put a little juice into these early playoff seeds. JJ, I hear what you're saying about, you don't want to see all the upsets in the playoffs. I agree, but I do think you get a team that, starts gelling a little bit or they start feeling themselves after coming out of the play-in tournament, and they could surprise a 1 or 2 seed that may be taking them a little lightly, as opposed to other years where it's just a 4-0 domination. And that's not fun for anyone except for the fans of the better team.
I'm gonna tell you what, Josh. 1 or 2 tune-up games for an 8 seed don't warrant, doesn't wear off a blowout. Doesn't stave off a blowout. If you was gonna get blown out by that 1 seed, you was gonna get blown out by that 1 seed, regardless if those 2 games happen. That's not why I like to play for me. Like the Chicago Bulls getting 2 tune-up games and then getting the 8 seed or something like that.
Watch out for Mr. Triple Double.
A team down there. The Wizards may be the only exception.
Warriors,
Golden State.
Yep.
Steph and them. He can put a 50 ball on you.
And who else? Oh, that's cool. 50 to 60 other points got to get scored. Who's scoring them?
That's all right. Wiggins and Oubre just got to show up and put up 20 apiece. That's it.
Four times though. Like you can do it for one game.
Issue. You might get 4 times total out of Wiggins and Oubre in a series.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Now here's the one thing I want to say before we go. If there were one thing I would change about it, what I would do is instead of making 6 through 10 have a play-in series, what I would do is give the top 2 seeds a bye and let teams 2 through 10 play. And then what they do is reseed to match up with the 1 and 2 after they play that first round. That's me.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan of adding, I don't know. I just don't like that the 10 seed makes the playoffs. I feel like it lessens regular season.
They don't make the playoffs. They just earn the right to play for it. Just
right,
like
no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I like about this as opposed to what ET was throwing out there. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Though I'm excited for this play-in. Though I said to JJ before, I might be a little more excited for the play-in than I am the actual playoffs. Get to watch my guy Domantas Sabonis. We all remember that little conversation.
All those many months ago.
Oh yeah,
times.
He just helped me win an NBA basketball championship in fantasy.
OG, I'm not gonna bring up the Domantas Sabonis point because we legit don't have time. But I want to tell you, you want to talk about egregious? It was the most egregious thing I ever heard in my life.
It was egregious.
I promise you, you will not get me to bring it up to say it. But I just need you to know that I was in here defending the good name of Trust the Process because it was egregious.
As Max said, we all say things crazy when we get upset,
Look, this man Josh was off the gas.
Well, boys, that brings us into our tap outs at ET. Look, I was about to explain it to you. What am I doing? You know exactly how tap outs work. Does anybody have a tap out queued up? Anyone want to go first?
I got one queued up ready to go.
Let's hear it,
I
JJ.
do too, but carry on.
Mine's a quick one though. I gotta shout out my guy, fellow Puma fan, one of the best rap artists in the game, J. Cole. Actually, just signed a pro basketball contract today to play in the African League for the Rwanda. I forget what their actual nickname is, but he's gonna go play in Rwanda, and that just goes to show you, man, you're really never too old to accomplish a new goal, to chase something new, to just open up a new avenue for yourself. Because this man went pro at 35, 36, just signed his pro contract. So it's been a lifelong dream of his just to play basketball at a high level. He was a really, really outstanding high school player, all-state high school basketball player. Could have played in college if he didn't get hurt. So I had to give love to the brand. He out there representing Puma fam. So good for J. Cole. That's a shout out to him.
Yeah, we're going to have to get some live streams from Rwanda next season because that's going to be pretty interesting.
Tuned into that league.
Yeah, great for him. I'm not watching it, but great for him.
I'll catch the highlights
so
on
happy
Beach
for
Report or something.
Yeah, absolutely enamored for him. I'm not watching it.
Doc Rock's going to have to cook up some J. Cole overs over here. But hey, we'll see how that goes. ET, what's the tap out?
Hey, first of all, I just want to take a minute because, I haven't been on here in a while. I wanted to thank you guys for bringing me in, let me do a guest appearance. I appreciate it.
Always welcome.
Pleasure to have you back, bro.
Also, for all the ladies that missed out, listen, happy Mother's Day to all of you. None of us would be here without our moms. We appreciate you. To all the big moms, the wives, the girlfriends we got kids with, we appreciate all of you. We love all of you. You are what helped make all of us better men every day. And then lastly, I always got show recommendations. Listen, if you haven't gotten onto it, you're way too late. But watch Snowfall and watch Harlem. That's
I'm
it.
on it. I'm in season 3 of Snowfall. I'm knee deep.
My guy. Oh, and
Me
Ozarks is coming back soon too. Get on that.
Woo! Now we're
I
talking.
gotta finish Ozark. I didn't finish Ozark. I gotta finish Ozark.
Oh, you got to get on that.
Oh yeah, you gotta watch that.
Yes, sir.
You got to get on that. That's the cream of the crop. Et, I might go ahead and take your recommendation tonight. I've been looking for a show. Digits.
Snowfall's like that.
We got anything?
Man, I got nothing, honestly. I guess if I didn't say this at the beginning of the show, I would have thrown out the birthday week thing here. I'm looking forward to a nice birthday dinner steak on Friday night. So that's just on my mind. Just want to throw that out
Steak
there.
48.
If you're looking for a sign to go out for a nice meal, go out for a nice meal for my birthday.
There you go. We added a digit this weekend. I
There
love
we
it.
go.
Hey, hit Steak 48 if you can get reservations. If not, Sullivan's is an awesome steakhouse as well out in King of Prussia.
Word. A little bit, not where I'm going, but I'll take a look for next time. I'm already locked in for Chima.
Where we going, Max?
Chima.
Oh, Chima, yes, we bring it. Yeah, bring the
Potatoes.
OG crew
That's
back.
a diesel though. You're not really getting steak there. You're getting steak with other stuff.
That's fine.
Yeah, I know,
That's
but
fine.
I'm getting
But
enough
for
different
the
types.
nostalgia's sake, ET, for the OG time's sake, we're going to Chima.
Yeah, there it is. Go to Shima's.
Man, I got to get to work then. I got to check this place out. But I don't have much of a tap out either. My tap out would be I went on a run today after not doing activity in a long time. So if you've been like me, been really lazy, been out of shape since quarantine hit, here's your sign to get back out there. It's not as bad as you think once you actually start going out there. I feel better than I have typically. So yeah, go out there and get a little nice walk or run in. But, we are Trust the Process live, and if you missed us tonight, you can always find us in audio form. My guy Banners, he finds a real natural way to slip it in the middle of the
That
episode.
was good. No, that was good though. That was good,
Josh. That was really
I'm
good.
gonna tell him about you next week. That was good.
I appreciate you putting a good word with the big boss man for me.
I got you.
Thank you. But as always, we're brought to you by My New Philly, where something's always news and everything's always Philly. There we go. Even got that.
Never
right
easy
again.
over Zoom.
We're hot. Going to the playoffs hot. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Monday.
Yes, sir.